Hey everybody, welcome to the latest episode of the Rock Experience with Mike Brunn. On this episode, I'm joined by Bruce Kulick and Todd Kerns. We're going to be talking all about the upcoming show in Vegas on December 30th, performing on the prior KISS cruises, the status of recording new material, and much more. I also asked Bruce if there's any chance that somebody from KISS will join him at that show on December 30th, and I think his answer might interest some of you guys. I think you guys are going to really enjoy this, so let's jump in and let's get started. We're going to start here. And, Todd, I want to say thank you for joining me today on the show. We know that Bruce will be joining us momentarily, but, I've got you and we figured let's get started. And we have a couple of cool things to talk about here, most notably the Bruce show coming up at the end of December. So I think you just had your birthday bash at this place, Vamped, if I'm not mistaken, right?
That's right. Although I am kind of disappointed that we're not going to just record and talk about all the Star Wars stuff we were just talking about. But yes.
But the next time I have you on, we'll just do an hour on Star Wars. How
on
about
Star
that?
Wars, yeah. No, Vamped. I've played Vamped many, many times. It's sort of it started as Vince Neil's Feel Goods. Actually, it was a club that Vince was part owner in, and then Danny Coker took it over as Vamped, and it's been it's like one of the only freestanding rock rooms in the city. So I always try to if I'm going to do a show, I do it there. So I've been doing shows there for a long time. So it's very familiar to me. When it came up, initially it had come up because of the residency. KISS was meant to be doing a residency here in Las Vegas. So we were kind of like, someone had come up with the idea, well, why don't we just play sort of like on a night off? There's going to be KISS fans in town anyway. Why not we just do a night in between, and they can go come see us and then go see KISS the next night, or vice versa. And I was like, well, it's sort of a no-brainer, really.
Sure.
But then of course the residency went away, and then we were left with that conversation of do we keep doing this, or do we, and it was like, well, why not, really? I mean, in a lot of ways it's great to have this baby steps into the idea of doing this outside of the parameters of the cruise, because you've seen the cruise a number of times.
Every one of those shows on the cruise, and the shows you did at the Indie Expo I've seen as well.
That's right.
People forget about those shows, right?
Yeah.
But I haven't.
that was a good one. Ace got up, Eric got up. Yeah, those were great.
Yeah.
Those and every one of them was so fun and so great. But there is this sort of subjective blindness to it, that we're so close to it that we just and even yourself, I don't know how you're in a much better position to kind of go, well, if we booked a club, in your area, I think they would do just fine. And we're kind of more like, can we only do this on the cruise because the fans are so rabid and so hungry for basically almost anything we serve up, in a way.
Sure. Absolutely.
This is an audience, and you and I are included in an audience, that are like, we love Detroit Rock City, we love Shout It Out Loud, we love Rock and Roll All Night, but we've heard it a gazillion times. And there's an entire chapter that's sort of overlooked, and Bruce waves that flag, and we all wave it along with him. So to get up there every year, minus 2020, we get to go out there and do, the deepest of cuts, to which I don't know that there's really a limit to how deep you can dig. I think we might have pushed it this year with the
with the Eric Costa,
but even that, I think that there, a lot of people were still excited to. I do know people genuinely who were completely moved by that. Yeah, I know. Yeah.
Yeah, and I'll say this: you guys picked my two favorite Eric Carr solo songs. Like if you were asking me, hey Mike, which two songs should we do? I would have said Eyes of Love and Can You Feel It, would have been the two. So when you did those, I'm like, I'm good, but yeah, I'm sure there was some people like, what's this from? Where's the?
There
This is
was
not
a
a Kiss
bit of
album.
that, but don't you feel like those are two very overlooked songs? The fact that those got passed over, at least one of them got passed over for the album. Was it Hot in the Shade around that era? I
Yes,
guess it would
yes.
have been.
Eyes of Love. For the life of me, I cannot understand what Kiss was thinking to leave Eyes of Love off of any of the albums during
Yeah.
the 80s. You know, that to me is a phenomenal song. Dare I say, and I don't mean it in a negative way, I actually like that better than Little Caesar. So, and that's
Sure.
nothing against Little Caesar, but I
No.
just think Eyes of Love is that good. And I
Yeah.
really scratch my head and I say, who's making that decision to leave that off of an album? But
Yeah, it's tough. You know, in watching that Beatles documentary, you kind of get reminded of how difficult it is with the politics involved with four guys, plus management, plus record company, plus all the moving parts. Stuff gets lost, you know, and I assume Eric, you know, as talented as he was, you know, just sort of like the pecking order of things, just kind of like, you know, oh, cool, that's a really great song. Well, we should take a look at that later after we deal with A, B, and C, and then all of a
right.
sudden that gets lost in the mix, and that happens all the time, unfortunately. But it's really nice to see, you know, 30 years later, that we're talking about the talent of the guy beyond just being the drummer and the cool ass vocalist that he was. That he could write a song. You know, I was like, when we were learning those songs, I go, man, how do they overlook? And Can You Feel It? I thought was like, almost has like this big, I mean, almost pseudo Brian Adams-ish kind of like popism to it. That I was like, this is like a hit. Like, how did they pass this up? It seems like a missed opportunity, but whatever.
I mean, I know Eric wrote that for the Rockheads, but to me, that could have fit on a Kiss album also. If that was on Asylum, it would fit. It would totally fit. But you know, speaking of doing those shows, though, for you, doing those Paul Stanley songs, hitting that, you know, the range that he hits in the 80s, how stressful is that for you? And then B, knowing that Paul's on the boat, listening or singing or watching, it's got to be stressful. What was that like for you?
That's the weirdest thing to me is it's like, I imagine, you know, I know Paul's not sitting there like, you know, front row watching us or like that, or even sitting side stage, but no matter where you go on that boat, you're very aware of what's happening, especially what's going on the pool deck. Cause you know, those guys' rooms are like above us or whatever.
Right above you. Right.
So I would imagine, you know, there must be times, you know, as familiar as like Paul's one of the ones that's pretty rock solid on pretty much everything they've ever done. Gene, I always kind of giggle at because he's the one that's sort of like, was that from Dress to Kill? And you're like, no, that was Asylum, dude. Like
right.
10 years later.
Decade off.
Yeah. No, you just kind of like, you know, not as sort of like, because there's so much history there. But I imagine Paul's just sitting in his room or whatever and hearing like, you know, Time Traveler or some crazy song, Sword in the Stone, or some song we're playing and going like, you know, almost having like a because it's just not like in his regular every day-to-day life that he kind of thinks, hey, I wrote this song, you know. I just imagine him sitting on his couch playing guitar and coming up with that riff, and the next thing he knows, he sees a bunch of jackasses playing it on a
boat. But you know what? I wondered this year, the first indoor show they did all night, and I wondered how much of that was the influence of what you guys have been doing on the boat for the last few years, and how that's gone over so well. And Paul and the band, did they say, maybe we need to add one of those to the set list? And they added, you know, Take It Off also, which was a non-makeup song. So I wondered how much of that was the influence of you guys, that they've seen the reaction you've got.
I wonder too. I mean, the people have spoken. You know, I think that they're as surprised as anybody when they see the reaction to stuff that they probably deem, I wouldn't say as important, but I know that when you put together a set list, we were talking about this earlier, how when KISS puts together a set list, it's hard to imagine a set list without Detroit, without Shout, without Rock and Roll All Night, and you know, right. and you've got like, if you start with the sort of the 4 or 5 tent poles, and then you just kind of fill in the spots. I think it's kind of difficult to imagine, well, do we bust out like something from Asylum or Animalize or Crazy Nights, or, you know, I don't know that really, I mean, obviously things like Crazy Nights, the song Crazy Nights was a big hit in the UK apparently. So stuff like that, you know, it can happen, but I think there was such a focus as soon as the makeup went back on, which was exciting, you know, when I was when they did that, you know, and it was kind of like they focused on that era. It was very exciting. But unfortunately, it sort of put drew a line in the sand, even though they did bust out Lick It Up, Heaven's on Fire, and things like that sort of came back later on.
Yep.
I don't know. I honestly, you know, especially on the boat, and you know as well as I do, on the boat is a very different experience. So when All Night or Take It Off gets added to the list, you know it's 100% specifically for us.
The diehards,
for the audience. And it they're not thinking like, okay, now we're going to take that out on the end of the road tour and do, take it off.
Right.
I don't see
I
that
wish they
happening.
would, but
Yeah.
I
You never
understand
know.
why
I
they
mean,
don't.
maybe it'll be there as an option, or like, because She's So European came out and some stuff like that. So
Yeah.
I think the boat became kind of like the place where they dig deep, and
Right.
and some elder stuff will come out and whatnot. And so, which is, because I'm one of those guys, I'm the guy that's kind of like, I love all the stuff, but I love the deep stuff and a lot of the stuff that was, I know that they've always had a sort of sore spot when it comes to things like Elder, because of they lived it, they lived
Right.
through the disappointment of that particular era. And I don't think that they enjoy necessarily reliving it, but at the same time, for those of us who were there and really loved it and enjoyed it, it's not a we don't have that feeling about it.
Without doubt. No, with that.
Yeah.
So now you're talking all this set list stuff, and obviously on the cruise, one of the things I love is that every time I've seen you guys, you've never done the same set list twice. Even when you're playing multiple shows on a cruise, it's never the same set list. You're always mixing it up, always adding in additional deep cuts for like a one-time performance. But when you put together a set list for this upcoming Vegas show on December 30th, what is it, a different point of view that maybe, because you're not on a boat with a whole bunch of diehards now, you're out with the general public? Is it a different point of view you guys have?
I love that. Yeah, we're just out with the general public.
Exactly.
It's like prison talk.
There's not 2,000 people like me in Vegas.
Well, that's kind of what I wonder. I mean, it's obviously going to attract, like-minded people like ourselves who are going to be like KISS fans. And when you say KISS fan, I'm not talking about just the sort of like general KISS fan who's sort of like, yeah, I know the ones that we mentioned, Detroit, Shout, stuff like that. But in doing this, that's where the conversation has been a lot more involved, a lot more involved as far as like, well, of course, on the boat, we can do this. Do we kind of take a more slightly mainstream lean, but even mainstream, like when you're talking about Unholy or, I don't know, any of the kind of like more sort of what you would consider God Gave Rock and Roll to You, that kind of sort of like the hit
The
era.
videos or the singles and all that.
That era. They're still considered basically deep cuts by modern standards because they don't get played by those guys. But it has been an interesting conversation. It doesn't mean there won't be a couple of surprises here and there to see if we can't kind of hit a little left hook. I just wonder, like, in the general public, as you bring it up, how Eric Carr demos would go over.
Right. Probably for the general public, they'd really scratch their head, I would think. Like, right, exactly. It would go right over their head. Yeah. But, one of the things I love that you guys always do are these medleys of songs. And, I remember you doing one, I think pretty much for every album, but I remembered like the Analyze medley, I think had like 6 of the 9 songs from the album on there. You've done one for Asylum Hits, Carnival of Souls on the boat went over really big when you guys did that. Is there a plan to do any kind of medleys like that for this show?
Bruce isn't really too crazy on the medleys. I think there might be 1 or 2 kind of connecting type things, but it's interesting because I remember somebody bringing that up, how like we had done like the Eric and Bob Kulick medleys on day 1 of the first show that we did, and we never did it the second day. So those medleys are a beast to put together and a beast to rehearse. And then you're sort of like, and then we play it, and we only played it the one show. It's sort of like delete information as soon as you finish it and move on to the next show. It's really overwhelming in a good way. When we're getting ready for this, it's like, yeah, let's do this, and yeah, let's do that. And then a lot of it's funny because it'll start off with like 4 songs for Bob Kulick. Well, we have to do Naked City. Oh, Naked City, and you start, next thing you know, that thing was 24 minutes long.
It was incredible to me.
The Bob one was like 24 minutes long. So it was like, and to rehearse that and to make sure it all seamlessly kind of comes together is challenging, and it really makes you kind of focus and being present, and then we only play it once. Like literally play it once and then didn't play it again because the next show we were like, oh, we're going to do this and we're going to do that, we're going to do something slightly different. So I mean, that has been discussed as far as medleys and whatnot, but I don't know if we'll quite focus so much on, because it was kind of handy because that Animalize set, I think, was an anniversary. I don't remember what it was, what the actual
35th anniversary or something like that, right?
And Bruce was like,
there's always another anniversary coming.
I know. That's the one thing about a band that's been around for a while, is you can kind of like always find something to celebrate. So I don't really know. I think largely it's sort of like this is such a testing ground of like, well, let's just see what happens if we do what we do,
Right.
in a more general sense, I guess. If it can have legs beyond the cruise, because, you know, a lot of people entertain the idea of, why don't you do flyouts to Cleveland and Detroit and Chicago,
Sure.
in the motherland of like KISS fandom? And I'm like, well, of course we would. I mean, of course we would gladly go and do any of this stuff if it made sense, you know. And it's like, you know, and when it makes sense, it also has to make dollars, I suppose. You know, but I mean, just enough to get people flown out and, you know, make the whole thing make sense. It's sort of like, you know, we all love doing it. We love KISS, but it's, you know, there's so many moving parts and so many, you know, ways to get this thing going that it's sort of, it can be a challenge.
Without a doubt. Now, you know, one of the things I was saying to a friend of mine just last week, we were talking about this upcoming Bruce show. It's the first one. And do you guys feel any pressure? Like, I've seen Paul solo, Gene solo, Ace,
Yeah.
Peter, Vinny, and 99 times out of 100, those shows are not sold out. And that's no disrespect.
Right.
It's just, you know, the monster of KISS is much bigger than the individuals, right? But do you guys feel pressure for this show to sell a certain amount? Or no, we were talking, I'm going to go see you with Slash in March. And even as of today, that show's not sold out. I mean, these are big names. Do you guys have a certain pressure? Like, hey, it's the first time we're doing it. We better draw X, otherwise we can never do this again.
You know, it's funny. I've never been that guy. I've always been sort of like, I've had friends who were like that, and they'd say, you know, oh, I looked out and I could see the empty seats. And I go, I'm one of those people, I just look out at the people that are there and I know that they need to be shown a good time. We're all here together doing this thing. And I remember those shows, you know, going to shows back in the day, and, you know, it was underpopulated, but I don't feel like the bands that mattered really ever put on less of a show. Well, it was like, 50% of the people here, so let's just put on 50% of the show. Right. It's like, that's not how that works, you know, because every show is sort of an advertisement for what we can do, you know, and it's sort of like, well, we can do this for 300 people. Imagine what we can do for 3,000 people. Imagine what we can do for 30,000 people, you know, right. and that's kind of, you know, that's kind of where I'm at. I don't really think about that stuff too much. So when people start talking about like, you know, this sold this many tickets, I'm always kind of like, okay, whatever. You know, it's sort of, there's so many factors that come into play, especially when you're dealing with something like December 30th in Las Vegas. You know, you're kind of like, we're kind of like threw it at them relatively, you know, we did it with enough time, but it's still like, people have plans, people have Christmas plans, people have holiday plans, people have New Year's plans already sort of built for the last year or something like that. So we don't expect everybody to adjust everything for us. But that said, I just know it's going to be amazing. And luckily that place is it's a, you know, a mid-sized place. I don't think we're going to have a problem with it. I think it's going to be jam-packed. And I know people are going to be happy. You know, I think people are going to be like, I'll be very surprised if someone says, you guys didn't play Detroit, you know, or the song, not the town.
Right. The song. Right. Exactly.
And I'm like, no, you know what this is. It's Bruce Kulick. It's that guy. He's the guy from that, you know, it's going to be that stuff. So yeah.
Yeah. I'm not, go ahead.
I'm not too hung up on who's there, who's not there. I'm more hung up on who's there. That's
and I'm excited to hear that because, again, being in New York myself, I wanted to get out to Vegas to see this. I don't think it's going to work out for me, but I'm like,
well, that's the thing. I know, you know, everybody's an adult with kids and families, and they've got to kind of juggle stuff around, especially around the holidays. And I understand that, but that doesn't mean there's not more people who are bigger fans than you, Mike, that are going to make those.
Oh, I'm sure.
Just kidding.
No. Look, there's I'm quite sure people, the second you announce it, that said, I don't care. And some of these overseas fans, God bless them, right? And you see them on the boat, right?
Yeah.
And some of them this year had a quarantine somewhere else for 2 weeks before they get on the boat.
I know.
That's a level of fandom that to me surpasses anything I've ever even dreamt of, right? So
some of them were coming into like South America and working their way up somehow. I can't remember how that all works.
Absolutely amazing.
Yeah. That's dedication.
Amazing. Yeah. That is. Now, saying that, I would think a Bruce solo show in South America, those places would go over probably even bigger than the places in the States. So those fans love that stuff.
I think so. Yeah. I think that, you know, we talk about that a lot. Japan, Australia, Europe, South America, you know, there is definitely, and I think this is all about testing this sort of like, is this something we can actually entertain, you know, to even do? You know, obviously we all have other things going on. We all have schedules, but, you know, the music industry in the 21st century is so much about, everybody has multiple projects. Everybody has multiple things. No one's buying records. So we're all kind of like, people are always asking, man, you're busy. I go, well, I am, but you know, so I do this with with these guys and that with those guys, and we do this. You know, it's like there's 365 days in the year. I got to kind of, you know, fill my time with something. It's like if I was just a member of the Bruce Kulick band, we, you know, I'd see you once every 365 days a year,
right,
you know,
right.
or 365 days. And then I go out and play, and then I'd sort of sit around for 360 days waiting for the next KISS group. So, you know, it's, you know, I think you just got to keep busy. And I think that when you're smart about it, you take a step back and look at the music industry and you go, okay, well, if we could find pockets to go here and go there and South America or wherever and hit it for a week or two or longer if they deem it possible, it could be quite successful. And you do it, you know, if you don't do it like every month, you can maybe do it once a year, do a trip somewhere like that, and you can turn it into a successful business. So that's part of, you know, I mean, it feels like there's a much bigger thing in plan, but mostly it was just kind of like this opportunity came up and it was like, yeah, let's do it. Sounds like fun. You look at each other, you go, is everybody available on this day?
Right. That's the first step.
That's step one. Yeah. And you go, okay, cool, let's do it. And we're all here in Vegas, so it's just kind of over there, you know.
Right. You can be back in your bed at 2 a.m. sleeping. Nice and easy.
That's the one beauty of playing in Vegas. Yeah.
Right. Now, you mentioned before keeping yourself busy and doing lots of different things. And if I remember right, it was around the May time period. I think Bruce posted online that you guys were either going to start recording or in the process of recording. We've heard all this talk about new music. What's the update here, Todd?
We are constantly... Tomorrow? Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Tomorrow, big announcement.
Tomorrow, yes. Here it comes. Debut single on this show right now.
Yeah, exactly. No, Bruce and I have been sort of like working on stuff for a long time. Again, it's such a crazy thing with scheduling, and this is part of the problem when you have multiple projects on the go. And then we had sort of like headed into that back half of the year of 2021 going like, okay, let's focus on getting this stuff together. Let's And then something comes up and something else comes up. And the next thing you know, you realize, do we cut our losses and focus on getting ready for the cruise, or do we kind of dig in and try and finish these recordings? So things have been started. It's just a case of like I don't want to Chinese democracy it, you know what I mean? But you know, you have to do it when it's right. It's kind of my mentality. It's like when it's ready, and we'll make a go of it and do it right. So that's the weird thing about it, is there's no risk or no rush, you know what I mean? Like Bruce just had a birthday. I just had a birthday. Yep. So you do feel the passing of time, and you kind of think, well, we're not getting any younger, you know? So at some point, I don't know how much longer anybody, well, I'll be doing this for a long time, Mike. We'll be having the same conversation in 10 years.
I hope so.
Maybe 15 years. But it could, you know, it could go on. And I think there's no reason to not do it. I think that's the beauty of making music now, is because a lot of people have that mentality, and you've heard Paul talk about it, that sort of like, almost as sort of like, well, it's tough to imagine recording new music when it's great that you put out new music, but we're coming to hear Detroit and shout, right. And, you know, I mean, everybody's coming. And you know, I was actually really blown away by things like Sonic Boom and Monster. I thought, you know, I felt like there was a lot of, but I understand when the amount of money gone in versus the amount of money that comes out of that project. You know, it's business, and it's
the music business.
It's the music business. Yeah. And nobody's more attuned to that than the guys in KISS.
Really? I've never noticed that before. Really?
Yeah, as you and I own a bunch of their shit.
Exactly.
Yeah. There's Paul, there's Gene.
There you go. That's
right. But that's also the beauty of making music now, is it really isn't for any other reason than to make music. You know what I mean? And that's kind of what it's going to take everybody a minute to kind of get to that side of like, well, you know, we never really got into this to make money anyway. You know, it was like, sure. I mean, everybody dreams of like, I'm going to own this kind of car or, you know, whatever. But I'm like, that was never really it for me. Like, I always kind of like, I love playing music because I love playing music, and making music to me has to be a deeper thing too. It can't be about, you know, we spent all this money on this and it didn't, you know, we broke even. I mean, unfortunately, that's kind of the music business these days, is that the Aerosmiths and KISS and that level of bands, they go out, they play, they knock out that catalog, and we're all happy. And that the new music thing becomes an afterthought. And when you really look at it from a business standpoint, you understand it.
Right.
But But for anybody who still considers themselves an artist, it becomes harder to kind of imagine, well, why wouldn't we? You know, it's like there's nothing better than making new music and looking out in the crowd and they're singing that song we just came up with. You know, that whole thing is like Slash. To Slash's credit, he's that guy. He's like, he doesn't really care. Like, he doesn't care that, you know, the record industry is this and it's half or whatever a percentage of what it was 20 years ago.
Sure.
He still kind of has that, like, we have to make new music because that's what we do. He's whatever he's doing, he's probably making up a riff right now. So like, that's just who he is, you know?
Right.
So, and he's probably thinking like, we got to get the guys together to work on this riff. So that is just the way he operates. And he will just do that till the day he dies, you know? And I don't think he's really the kind of guy. I mean, it's tougher in the Guns camp because it's such a bigger machine. And although they have been putting out new music as well. So that's also applicable. You know what I mean? So, and I think Bruce is also that mindset, and he's very proactive about like, here's some ideas. What do you think about this? Let's do this. And he and I bounced a lot of things back and forth. And then we got the guys together and put some riffs down and some stuff down, went to the studio. And it's just a matter of time, you know? And I think that's kind of what it is you really have to kind of make it a priority, dedicate your time to it and get it done.
Sure. Now, stylistically, would those songs be like, I'll say 80s Kiss? Would it be like Revenge, Carnival of Souls? Would it be current? Like stylistically, what's the songs like?
I think we have to, I mean, as you know, current, there's nothing wrong with the word current.
Agreed.
Because it's such a arbitrary word, really. Like, I don't know what that means. Like,
right.
Yeah, we're going to sound like K-pop now or something.
Right.
No, obviously it's going to, in a funny way, it probably sounds like all of that combined. You know what I mean? Like it has like
Bruce is joining. Should I let him in?
All right. Yeah, let him in. It was, you know, it's going to be a combination of all that stuff. Right. Are your ears burning? I'm talking about you.
I guess sort of.
Todd was saying he was finding somebody to replace you on lead guitar for that show on the 30th.
Oh,
yeah, right. Yeah, right. Yeah,
right. How's it going, Bruce?
Oh, it's holiday madness. I mean, I got an unusual amount of Grand Funk gigs in December, and then I'm always putting out content like Todd. Then preparing for this gig is a lot of moving parts, and then it's the holidays. You know, I had Lisa's son and you know, wife here last week, so that was a whirlwind. And I know Todd's been doing a lot of family stuff too, so it's very exciting. I had my birthday as well over the weekend.
Yep, happy birthday!
Thank you.
Finally 21. Congratulations!
Yeah.
Go out drinking with your friends.
68 has a nice round figure to it, so I kind of liked it actually. Let me turn up my volume here. But what could I say? It's been an incredible couple of years. You know, we know about unprecedented and all that, but the point is, I know Todd and I, you know, we've worked hard in ways, and now things are opening up, and he'll get a real taste of how wild it is when he's back out there for Slash for 2 months or whatever it is, 6 weeks.
Yeah,
it's really interesting, and getting back to normal. It's not really normal, but it's still exciting, and people want to be entertained, and people want to connect, and that's what we do. So, and I know the gig on the 30th will be very well received. So we have a lot on our plates. Us entertainers.
Yes. And Todd and I were even just talking right now about the fact that a few months back you mentioned that you're going to be recording new material. So there's definitely seems like plenty of stuff on the plate to keep you guys busy.
Yeah. And it was funny that our schedules got so bad as soon as things got better. You know, I mean, you know, of course, we all know there was the Delta variant, and a lot of things got really wiggly and weird, and things were still postponed or canceled or just went on with different protocols. But there was no way with everybody. Zach got really busy last year. Zach Thorne was so talented, and between Corey Taylor and you know, and other gigs.
It was mostly with his gig over at Chippendales. I don't know if you know.
Yeah, that one. Oh, man. I have to check it out one time. And then you know, Brent was filling in for. He's a multi-instrumentalist. You know what I mean? He's not just a drummer. So he wound up like filling in for all these different groups and everything. All of a sudden he's like, no, I'm out of town for 10 days. You know, I'm like, whoa, what happened? And it was usually somebody got sick or couldn't do the border crossing, you know. So yeah. I have to admit, my guys can really roll with it. You know what I mean? They can learn stuff really quickly and do crazy things. So that's why everybody got busy. And then just last thing about how busy. So Grand Funk typically in a year does 40 to maybe 45 gigs in a year. Okay. So we have 30 in 6 months. So,
wow.
do the math. And we actually lost a few as well because they wanted to wait, because of Delta variant and all that. So that's nuts. I'm grateful for the work. I'm a little overwhelmed with it. And I know, Todd, you know how much else I try to keep on my plate to do my life and, with my music and career. So that's another element that was really shocking. Okay. So but it's all good. Musicians always complain when the phone's not ringing,
Right.
Yeah.
And then when it rings, and I think I've explained this to the guys, it's really good sometimes to be able to say, no, I can't do that.
Right. It's good when you have the choice yourself of what you do and don't want to do.
So that's what I mean. And you've grown so much yourself there, Mike, with your interviews.
Yeah,
so
huge.
I was actually just saying to a friend of mine before this today, I said, I opened the year interviewing Paul Stanley. I closed it with Bruce and Todd. What could be a better year than that?
Oh, there you go. I didn't know we were going to be your last this year. That's
well, I'm assuming it will be because it's the holidays and everybody breaks. But what could be a
things
better
are
year
going to
than
slow down a lot. I mean, I sometimes think about that date on the 30th. It's hard enough just to be, ready for Christmas and everything, and then we have this. To my band, it's always like we're doing the cruise, doing a gig. You know what I mean? Although I will let everybody know I am looking for a more big hits from Bruce kind of set. I don't have to go as deep at Vamp. And the guys were kind of relieved to hear that, even though we're prepared to do the same sets from KISS, Cruise 10, but it doesn't make sense to me. I wanted it to be more, there's still some surprises in there. I don't want to think, let anyone think that it's just going to be every song they can guess. But I didn't think that it would be appropriate. My first real Bruce Kulick gig in America in many, many years. In fact, I think Todd was at the other one, which was my BK3 release party.
That's right. That's right.
Oh, wow, yes.
Almost 12 years ago now.
Wow.
In 2022.
Amazing, right? Amazing.
Okay. And we didn't play a full set. Remember that? It was only like a half hour, I think.
Nick Simmons got up with that thing. It ended up being on the Family Jewels show.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. That was trial by fire for him. You know that.
Yes. Yes, it was.
Well, he came to rehearsal and that was new to him. I mean, that's kind of why Gene was excited that I asked him to sing. Gene, of course, sang Ain't Gonna Die, which is a great song on the record. And actually, when we were recording that is when they put Nick like as if he was in the studio, but we didn't actually record in that studio at Henson's. Nick's performance, but it's television, you know what I mean? So it's all like, it's reality, but it's kind of manipulated.
Are you saying that was fake?
No.
Oh no, the cat's out of the bag right here.
Yeah.
Pay no attention to the man behind the curtain.
That's right.
Yeah. You remember he got lost? Nick got lost coming to rehearsal. He was really late or something like that. And then they filmed that. And then of course he gets up there. The club could not fit one more, not even an insect could fit in there. It was like dangerously crowded. And I know that was trial by fire for him to perform. And Gene slipped in there secretly and was backstage. Remember that? I was really surprised because he told me, I'm not coming. And there he was.
On the actual episode of Family Jewels, it was that he wasn't going to be there. So none of us, when we went backstage and he was standing there, we were all like,
I know.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, it was a very memorable night. You actually stayed at my place in Studio City, and I catered from Jerry's Deli. But it was that was a hard gig, I got to say. But I was happy we did it, and it was a good kickoff. That was something to do with the label that was promoting BK3. But all the other solo, or what I would call a Bruce Kulick band gigs, have been out of the country. You know what I mean? Or a KISS Expo type thing. Which is different. So this is new territory for me. It's very exciting, actually. Eddie Trunk and I had an interview. You're going to speak to him today, Todd, right?
Yeah.
The Canadian content. And it was great because, he also bought a place here so he can be here. And it's interesting how there's so much great stuff going on in Las Vegas. Yesterday, they announced the big Hard Rock. Mirage is going to become the Hard Rock, and they're going to construct that giant guitar. Yeah, I love all crazy. That. I'm sure you were excited about that too, right?
This, I mean, if you've been here, I've been here 15 years, and I was just saying to my wife the other day, they're putting in that globe thing. You see that? Yes. They're putting a globe thing over by where Imperial Palace used to be.
Yep.
That guitar, it's like the landscape is constantly changing out here, and hopefully for the better. I mean, a hard rock being added is going to mean more rock, more
yeah,
shows,
these are
more gigs,
entertainment
more,
things.
yeah.
So we welcome that. And actually Simon, who worked with Todd and I, told me some things that I would be murdered if I said, you know, I mean, just how amazing the Sphere is.
Does he know where Jimmy Hoffa is?
Yeah, maybe that's a spot for him there. Exactly. But yeah, that Sphere is supposed to be an immersive, incredible experience. I remember cutting out a picture from a magazine before they even broke ground. You know, they showed what it would look like, and that's going to be ready. Well, that's a little ways off, and probably the Hard Rock would take a little while. But anyway, going back to Vamp, that's been the rock club for a long time here, and it's off the Strip. Some people may not know that, and you know, KISS will still do they'll come back to Vegas and do a residency. They will. I know Gene's been talking about it again. Just I think the timing this time wasn't right, and Vegas is a good place to be. You know, it's not for everybody. The weather's extreme. You have no idea how cold it was this morning.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, it's like 32 degrees. Last week was 28 where I am. Stuff like that.
That sounds like every day here in New York right now, Bruce.
Yeah, well, of course.
Yeah, by 2 p.m. By 2 p.m. it's a lot better. Trust me.
Right.
Yeah, better. And we did have a mild fall, but everyone that comes to Vegas in the winter thinks like it's going to be Miami or something.
Yeah, flip flops and
bring a jacket. You know, sometimes you're lucky when you see 60 degrees. You know, and it's dry cold. You know.
Yeah.
But and then I did talk about it yesterday too, and I wanted to make a mention. You know, it was you and Brent on one of the cruises that actually kind of, when Lisa and I knew we wanted to leave LA, my mom just passed away, and I knew she was going to expire within a year or so, and you said, come to Vegas, you know what I mean? So Lisa and I kind of put our radar on that.
That was an amazing Brent Fitz impression, by the way.
Come to Vegas. Yep.
Now I kind of feel like
now, and Tom is here, and Eric was. You know,
we got to close the gate now, though. There's enough of us.
I agree.
Eric's here, Tommy's here. It's like half of KISS is here.
Yeah, Gene is moving from there now, I think, right?
Yeah,
Gene was here.
Family wasn't too keen on it, but he, you know, but you know what? Now he's got the lay of the land. He knows what it's all about, so he's going to be comfortable anytime he's here. You know, he's going to know where to go and where to eat. You know, because he kind of fell in love with an area that I was attracted to in Henderson. And of course, I mean, he was in the, you know, this brand new, incredible development where they cut into the mountain and they're building these uber mansions. But that's still kind of my neighborhood. And meaning you go shopping in the similar places and the restaurants. So he dug it. And that I felt vetted that I made a good choice here. You know what I mean? So,
you know, Bruce, just kind of going back to the Vamp show for a moment, right? One of the things I picked up on, you released like a promo video for it, like, I guess 2-3 weeks ago that I saw.
Yeah.
And of course, my antenna went up instantly when I noticed that you put a song on there from BK3 that you were just mentioning. It was Ain't Gonna Die that Gene sings on. So my antenna went up and I said, Bruce has never done solo songs on the cruise. Is he going to do some at Vamp? So
my lips are sealed. I want to keep it a surprise.
Oh,
you're very astute. Okay.
We did some 11 years ago, almost 12 years ago at the Cat Club on the CD release party. That was
of course. Yeah. And I have done when I've traveled international.
I've seen those videos. Yep.
A few of the songs, you know, but I mean, I have to admit, I chose that song because it was exciting with Brent's drum intro and you know, and I have to be careful, even though, YouTube could know BK3, and then you know, when you have too long of a recognized music thing, it becomes an issue. I'm real careful, and sometimes I'll give a little tip to the viewers. I'm extra careful with the time, but I also use sometimes early demos that don't totally sound right. So maybe they won't get flagged. Okay.
Right.
And Todd knows these because sometimes we need to listen to the not finished version because it's easier to pick out what the guitar might be doing or the bass or etc. So I've used some really, if people go back and listen to things, again, they're very short snippets, but you go like, yeah, there's supposed to be a vocal there, or what happened to the guitar lead? Well, that's not the right lead, you know, but I, you know, again, that's not what I'm selling. And it's kind of low in the background. I'm just using it as a bed of, you know, KISS vibe, you know, to present my story in the video. That's all.
Well, the big fans like myself, Bruce, I picked up on it instantly. I'm like, ooh, is that a hint of something to come?
There you go.
So, you know, obviously we were just saying there's a lot of the guys around in Vegas. Not that you need it, but do you think there'll be anybody joining you? I know, like on the cruise, Eric Singer joined you guys for Domino, which was great.
That was
awesome.
I mean,
I know Eric has expressed that, you know, probably would like to be there, and I have a feeling that if he's there, we'll make him play. So,
I felt like you had to do that on the cruise also. Like I felt like he was like, I don't have my ear monitors or whatever.
Yeah.
You're like, just come up, just come up.
Oh, and he did such a great job.
Look,
we're all like family, so I'd really be surprised. But obviously, it's really up to him. I mean, we do have a special guest too, but I'm not going to say who that is on the bill to kind of open the show. But beyond that, I know there were other people that wanted to be there, but I really think we'd keep it in the family, and probably the only special guest would be Eric. And I don't think anybody else is really in town that I know of necessarily to be there. Okay.
Well, I think to me, that's one of the cool things with you, Bruce, is that you've obviously maintained a great relationship with Paul and Gene, but clearly you get along great with Tommy, the new guy in the band, right?
Yeah.
So,
of course.
I think to me, that's one of the things as a KISS fan, we love to see that the members getting along with each other, and we hate the bickering or whatever. And I just love that you kind of not only just carry the torch for the 80s, but you're like the model of what to me, like the musicians should be like with each other.
Right. Well, I mean, I do understand when some bands get snarky with each other because it's kind of they go through some really intense things, and then when things don't go the way and you can't make everybody happy in a family, in a group, or whatever. So and then when they have a gripe, and then it becomes a little bit of a I call it a pissing match and all, and then they're airing the laundry and I was talking about the A&E thing a little bit yesterday again with Lisa. It came up, and like Ace and Peter weren't in there, but that's complicated, and yet I think they really are like family, and they really do have this common respect and love for each other. But there's so much complicated business things that have gone down in the past, and things said that maybe shouldn't have been said, or narratives that were driven, and then you harbor an attitude, and then you get what I mean. So
maybe we should create some of our own drama. Just
I'll put a headline on this. Bruce Kulick fires Todd.
No, I mean, I'm very fortunate with the guys, but there are times, Todd, something comes up that I'm like, did he just say that? You know what I mean? And we have that conversation.
That's pretty normal stuff, though. It's kind of like, most of our things would be like, hey, that was my bagel, or something like that.
So then, Todd, is there any times that you like say, hey, let's do this song, and Bruce is like, no friggin' way, I can't play that, I don't play like that anymore? And the other way, does Bruce ever say something you're like, I can't, like when you did My Way, I was like, oh my God, you can't sing much higher than that in my mind. Right. Is there ever a time Bruce pushes you and you're like, no, I can't?
That's the funny thing about Zach and I, we're both sort of like cut from that cloth of like, yeah, that sounds cool, let's do that, that'll be fun. And then you get home and we text each other like, have you listened to this song yet? Oh my God. But I'm big on challenges. I actually quite enjoy the the sort of like, you can jump this high? Well, can you jump this high? And you go, I'll try it. Bruce says that almost about every song. He goes like, oh, I don't know if I could play like that.
I know.
But he always does.
I moan and bitch, and I have said they'll present things to me, like Exciter was one. Yeah. And I'll let everybody know that when they brought that up to me, I was kind of like, wait a minute. I'm not even sure who's playing guitar. And it turned out it was like maybe Rick Derringer, people say. Even if I thought it was Vinny, it doesn't matter. It was like I have no connection actually with it. We didn't do it in Animalize and with Eric Carr, tour, or Animalize Live, even though we did Lick It Up songs. And my reaction was weird. Then I listened to it. And I was like, I loved it. The only thing I didn't want to do that ending riff. It is very, very fast and interesting. And I'm going, well, wait a minute, we don't need that, because we would want to go right into another song anyway. So that was when my idea, let's just link it with Unholy. So they pushed me that way. But quite honestly, there's been songs where I go like, I can't really play that solo like that. And I've thought about it, and I just kind of interpret it then. You know what I mean? Okay. So I come up with a happy compromise, and no one's complained, and I'm very proud of what I'm able to do for my age. And but we do have those discussions. I mean, fortunately, we're all very able, and we do like challenges. I cannot believe we learned a 25-minute tribute to my brother, and the Eric Carr one was probably about 10 to 15 minutes too, of songs we've really never played. You know, Rockology, the stuff. I went so deep with Bob. I knew about Naked City. I never played it. I didn't even know what's the other one.
Legend Tonight.
Legend Tonight.
Yeah, I mean, I heard the title. I never heard it. I don't think, because Chikara is not a whatever. Which record was that from? Killers.
Yeah.
Killers.
It wasn't a common one. In fact, I had to ask my friend Michael to download it for me. It turned out I had a copy. And you know what? It was from my brother. It was in his box of CDs, of course, because he played on it.
Right.
But that made that really important, though. And the time of it, probably would have been done a year before if we were able to do the cruise in 2020. But of course, we couldn't. So, those are big challenges, and we all rose to the occasion, and it was pretty crazy. But I love that a lot of reaction I got was, you guys go the extra mile. You know, you do all this work for really like a performance. You know what I'm saying?
Yep. I was saying that to Todd before you joined, that some of these songs are one and done. And that tribute to your brother is I mean, that was 25 minutes, and you'll probably never do those songs again. You guys nailed those songs. And, you know, a lot of times if you think of doing a tribute, somebody could be one, maybe two songs, but you guys did nearly a half hour, which I thought was an incredible highlight of that show. Well,
thanks. And you know, again, it was the right place to do it, and it was the right time to do it. And I as much as it was a lot of hard work, I'm glad that everybody appreciated it. So we may visit songs from that, but to do the entire thing would be wouldn't really necessarily make any sense. So you got it right on that.
Yeah, you know, I was reading something today that actually surprised me. You were talking about before the Vinnie Vincent Era to Look It Up album. So the song, and I associate this with you just as much as the Vinnie lineup, because you guys did it for a decade. The song Fits Like a Glove was actually in the top 20 most performed KISS songs until like 2005, 2006. But that long, it was that popular of a live song, because you guys did it all through the 80s. Yet I'm always surprised, to my recollection, it's never appeared in one of your solo shows yet.
Exactly. And it's been on my short list, right, Todd?
Yeah, we've talked about it.
And somehow it just, we don't, you know, like Fits Like a Glove. And I think there was one more in Animalized
Young
Live
and Wasted, maybe?
Yeah, we used to talk about that one. Now, I didn't love those songs that much then, because we played them even faster than they were.
Zach would crush those songs, by the way.
He would.
Yeah.
So, but isn't that nice to know we have some other material we could look at for KISS Cruise? I think it's called 11.
11.
Yeah.
There you go,
Are you guys definitely going to be on that?
Well, you know, they don't actually,
okay, not officially.
No, I mean, I'm being serious. I'm expecting we'll be invited, but the point is that stuff doesn't actually happen until usually in the new year. They start looking at what they do for the bill. Okay. And you know, because you gotta remember, they give everyone a survey to fill out. Sure. What do you want to see?
I'm sure everybody said we don't want Bruce back, I'm sure.
Yeah, everyone's probably said that. So, but it's a question, but they don't understand necessarily the you know, just the mechanics of when people put a book, you know, again, it's a year away basically. So you don't need to book people immediately when you announce. Obviously, you know, KISS is on it. So, but this time it's leaving from LA. So that's a whole nother, that's going to be really interesting. That's really great. I think, you know, it'll change.
I think the change will be good. And I love Cabo. So that's a win-win in my mind. So,
exactly.
You know, on the cruise, you guys normally play 75 minutes, which is standard for all the bands on the cruise outside of really KISS doing. For this show coming up at Vamped, is that what fans should expect? A 75-minute set? Do you have a little bit more flexibility?
We'll go longer than that. Excellent. But I wanted everybody to know, like, and it was so funny. One time Brent said to me on this cruise when I was looking at the set list, and he was like, "Oh, you know, it's cool. Just if you go over, it'd be great." I go, "No, it's not great. They're on a schedule." Okay,
they're uptight about that.
And oh my God, when we got into the theater, there was this woman there, and she meant business when she was like, "All right, I'm putting the clock right here," and she was going to put it in front of Todd. I said, "No, put the clock in front of me."
Put it for me.
Right. I don't want to distract Todd. And I actually had to cut a song. I mean, I'm looking at. I had my Grand Funk backline DJ guy there. He's called DJ, and that was great. I always want him to come on the cruise, and he's looking at me and he's going like, you know, and I know, I don't want to give that responsibility to Lisa. It happened once. Somebody was like all over her, like are they almost done? You know what I mean? And then they'll see the set list and they see a medley and it's got 5 songs. They don't know. Yeah. Anyway, and that's why at one point, if you see the end of that performance, we go into, we jump into Spit from I Just Want It instead of we were supposed to do Heart of Chrome, but that would have been like 4 or 5 minutes and we would have been way over. And as it is, we ended just like in 30 seconds of the 75 minutes. Thank God.
And you know what? Obviously, I've never performed on the cruise and never going to. Thank God for everybody else. But
you must.
Trust me, you don't want me. But you know, I remember the first night that they were doing the All-Star Jam on the boat, which was amazing. I love to get your thoughts on it. But at the 75-minute mark, I was right by the soundboard, and they started saying, I think you guys were doing a Motley Crue song, I forget which one, Shout at the Devil. And the sound guy was like, that's it. And the person was like, oh, it's the last, one more song. And the 6-man person was like, that is it. 75 minutes done. I was like, holy crap, wow.
Yeah, I was on stage. It was Looks That Kill, actually.
It was Looks That Kill, but you're right. Looks That Kill. You're just on live wire.
They just started it, and I was kind of like, I think we're done, you know, and then all of a sudden, they shut it.
Oh, so, you know, I heard that, you know, Brent Woods, who's a good friend of ours too, you know, and everyone knows Sebastian didn't make the boat. So, you know, this jam thing, which is probably something 6-man's going to want to incorporate. Warning, Todd. Warning. But there's so much talent on the boat. It's going to be fine. It's not going to be too much heavy lifting for anyone, you know. So anyway, I heard the story, but I didn't know that they went over the 75. You know, and I know, and Brent saw it right there in the flesh, it happening with DJ This and the girl going like, okay, you know, and it was like clockwork because look, that's the way it should be run, you know, to be quite honest, only because you have multiple events going on everywhere. Now, a club is a little different. Right. So, yeah, when we're ready and we feel like our hour and a half's fine, or we stretch that a little more or a little less because we got it all in, that's what we're going to do. You know, it's no problem at a club.
Yeah.
That's awesome. Now, I also saw something that you guys are doing a giveaway at the show for a guitar.
Yeah, I mean, well, we got a couple of, you know, sponsors involved. I reached out to ESP, of course, and said like, hey, do you want to be, you know, on the event poster that the VIP, which sold out, of course, very quickly, the VIP experience, you know, they were like, yeah, we do. This is what we usually do. Are you cool with this? We'll send you a nice guitar. And it's not legal to raffle it with money and stuff like that. You know, we don't want to do that. You know, anyone that gets the ticket, when they're in that venue, they pick up a little number so we know who they are, you know, that they're there and they paid to be in the club. And then, you know, I'll be drawing a number and then we'll sign it for the band. I mean, the band will sign for the winner of the guitar. So that's really cool. And, you know, Todd works with Hohner, which is a harmonica company, actually. So they're helping out with sponsoring. And so is Prestige, the guitar company that Todd uses.
That's right.
Okay.
Yeah.
Which is those are, you know, a smaller, they're like a Canadian company, right, Todd?
Yeah, that's right. Vancouver.
Yeah, Vancouver. So it's kind of funny having anyone being like a, you know, like a sponsor for the gig, you know, but I love it. I mean, I've done a lot of things with ESP, and the only time they've done a guitar at an event other than an in-store that I'm actually representing ESP guitars is some of the KISS expos. They did do things like that. Okay. Where, okay, we'll send you this acoustic and, you know, you can make it a part of a giveaway, you know, so to, you know, it's all goodwill on everyone's part there.
Well,
so
KISS knows all, the KISS camp knows all about, you know, having something to give away, and, you know, well, a lot of things aren't given away. A lot of things are sold, but, you know, in this case, we're doing you one better and giving.
There you go.
And is it going to be signed by the whole band? Did I see that right?
Yeah.
As well?
Yeah. I mean, and let's say it was you that won it and you were there. If you want to say to Mike, whatever, we'll sign it.
If you want me to sign it and to depreciate the value of that guitar, hey, you guys, I got to run. I gotta run.
Yeah, I know you got another thing to do. I'll stay on with Mike a little bit longer.
Please, you guys carry on. And my ears are burning. I can tell what you guys are talking about.
Just wait until you hang up what we say now, Todd.
Oh, man.
Thanks a lot, Todd. I appreciate it.
Take care.
Take it easy. Have a good holiday. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. Happy holiday.
Yep. Yeah, so, you know, Bruce, I was wondering, obviously, with the shows on the cruise, do you get any feedback from Paul, from Gene about the shows? And obviously you're living through that stuff in the 80s that they don't play as much as I wish they did sometimes, but do you ever get any feedback from them on the shows?
You know, this year, I mean, I know that they enjoyed it, but it was particularly, I think it was the second time I did it with Zach and Todd and that Paul, there was a time, you know, it was a little easy to run into everybody then. because everyone wasn't as strict on the boat. And I remember, Paul having a conversation with Todd and complimenting him and saying, better you than me to sing that stuff, and, Gene knows everybody, and, he's used Brent before, of course. So they're very supportive of it. I think it's helped push them a little bit towards doing the, mixing up a little bit on the cruise, for their performance. You notice that they go a little deeper.
I said that to Todd, that this year they did All Night and Take It Off. And I had to wonder if that was an influence from you guys.
I guess, you know what I mean? And it was funny because I talked to Tommy about it, because Tommy and I had to go over a little bit what I was going to play with them, which was great to play electric, of course.
First time since '95, right?
Yeah, it would be. And that's pretty exciting. And that went really well. I mean, my comfort zone was a little weird. Actually, his guitar, I knew it was great, but it wasn't one of my guitars, that white Explorer. But it came off really well. But Tommy then asked me, he said, like, in Take It Off, I was just showing him a couple of things. We had very little time, but I know that was, again, they were doing songs for that one time. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Kind of like, us doing the medley for my brother. So I think it's good. If I've influenced them in a good way, that's wonderful.
Yeah, I was wondering if that was the case. Now, we spoke about the Bob medley. You also did the Eric Carr medley, which I thought was great. I was saying to Todd before, if I was picking two songs from Eric Carr that you guys would do, would be Eyes of Love and Can You Feel It? I think those songs, to me, they had, hit potential written all over them. So my first question is, what happened with Eyes of Love? Why was that never on a KISS album? Because that's incredible.
And again, when you go back that many years, I just know that, it's kind of like George Harrison trying to get a song on a Beatle album. Okay. It's what it was. And I'm not trying to say that Eric's songs, is on a level of a Beatle, but he was dealing with, Lennon and McCartney. Okay. Right. And there weren't any more famous, bigger, successful songwriters in the world than them. So if you look at Gene and Paul as the analogy of that, you don't get a lot of slots. The slots are slim. Okay. Little Caesar was fun, and I certainly would have thought, and I remember in a way, and I don't remember which one it was, and it might have been that Eyes of Love is kind of more like a mid-tempo song. But if Paul had a strong one mid-tempo, then that's going to take precedence. That's going to get the spot. So the important thing was that Adam Mitchell, myself, other people knew these are great songs, and at some point, let's hope we can do something with it. Now, I never really thought, well, would I ever play it live on a cruise ship? I didn't think that.
My jaw was like, when you guys started doing it, holy crap.
And the reaction, now you knew it,
yes.
But there were a lot of new people on that boat because the international people couldn't come. And I actually said to Todd on stage, I'm like, did we lose them? You know what I mean? Because I wasn't really sure of the reaction, but now it's gotten a lot of discussion, and it also shined a light. We did it because of the 30th anniversary was coming 3 weeks of the end of the cruise. We pulled into Miami on the 3rd, the 24th, right?
Yep.
So, and then when I offered, because I was saving these 2 boxes of the Rockology picture disc, okay, to offer after that, I was able to sell. I had 50 to offer that first time, and they sold in 2 hours. I've never seen anything like it.
Wow.
Yeah. And then it turned out that the label guy, someone didn't pay him for another 2 boxes, right? So he said, do you want these? Yes. You know what I mean? So I still have a few more in stock. Although I've cut off orders as of after today, I can't ship anything. Nothing can really go out because it's just not going to make it,
Right.
Yeah. But I love the idea that people are discovering that music again, even though Rockology in different forms, Tom Shannon did versions of it out there, and there's LP releases. I put it on. Loretta asked me, said, like, people are asking, why isn't it on digital? And I'm like, that's a good question.
Yeah.
I don't know why, but I know how to do that. She goes, like, please, let's get it up. So I did. I mean, I know how to do that because I had to do it for my solo records, okay, and other projects that I've done. So it's up there. And I remember in the first, kind of royalty statements when TuneCore, it's called, reports.
Yes.
There was some money there. I was like, I'm sending you some money, Loretta. I was surprised that people found it. And streaming is like pennies. Okay.
Yes.
So you need a lot of streaming to make any money. Some people bought it on iTunes because it was up there too. Right. But the fact that it's worldwide available, Rockology, so anyone can go to their Spotify and listen to Can You Feel It, or Somebody's Waiting, or any of the Rockhead songs. And in my video that I did for Eric, and again, I didn't want to make it long and his whole life. It wasn't necessary. There's been plenty of stuff out there about Eric, so it had to be like my story of me working with him and my affection and sadness in a sense of it, which Lisa helped me quite a bit towards the ending part. Yep. When it goes into tragedy, but I have to say that a lot of people weren't really clear what the Rockheads were until I showed, and that was a promo thing. That animation was done years later, meaning like maybe in the last 8 years or something like that. I'm not really sure. And Loretta was handling all that, so I don't know what happened one way or the other. But I had it to kind of shows the conceptualization of where Eric was headed with it. And I really hoped actually something could have happened with that. And he did have an opportunity when he was alive. And business opportunities back then, when you could be the drummer of a band, but you're not a professional animator, storyboard teller, hit TV show.
A lot different time.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So the offer was actually not that bad, but Eric wasn't comfortable with it. He didn't take it. And I was just telling Lisa about it recently. I wish he did, because I still think it would have given it some opportunity, but that was up to him. It was his baby,
Yeah,
that was his story.
I have one of his drawings literally hanging on my wall right over here.
Yeah, there you go.
I was always in tune with the Rockheads, and
yep.
I knew when you guys first put out the 4-song EP, right? Before the first album came out. But you were talking about streaming compared to physical product. And correct me if I'm wrong, Bruce, but your first 2 solo albums, right? Audio Dog and Transformer, are they available in a physical copy anymore? Are they out of print?
Okay, Transformer's available on my website.
Excellent.
Yes.
Okay.
Audio Dog's out of print, but my idea is to do actually vinyl of it at some point. But again, it's digital, so people can find it. I could always probably print some up, and I might look at that when I do vinyl, but I haven't had a lot of time for that. And one thing I did want to mention, because you got the right audience, if anyone has an extra copy of the original Rockheads EP, okay, I want one.
You don't have one, really?
No, I can't find it. I can't find it.
Who could help Bruce out? He needs one. I have one, but
no, I know. And when you search on like Discogs and other places, it just doesn't exist. You know what I mean? It's weird.
Wow. Well, and you were involved in that quite a bit. Okay.
Yeah, and I did tell Lisa that maybe they're in this one CD box of rarer stuff, but usually when I compile and I work on a project, I find every source, every version, and like all my Union stuff's in a box, because there are going to be this vinyl issues of those
Excellent.
2 records, the debut and the Blue Room, coming out later next year. So I was helping with finding photos and any extra tracks, or if there was anything else that could be done. But with Eric, again, I know what I have, but I'm not having any luck finding that. So I had to use a file photo from someone online. I think it was my friend Alexander in Switzerland who had a picture of it.
Okay. Yep. Yeah. Well, if anybody has an extra copy, get that over to Bruce.
Yeah, it's just the EP, I think, with the 4
songs. I think it's like a white cover, if I remember right. And it's got a picture on. But on the cruise this year, obviously it was a Psycho Circus theme, and you guys did the one-time performance of the song "Dreamin'," which to me has always been a highlight of the album. I love that song. What do you remember about writing the song?
So that's a great question, because there was a really interesting story behind it. And I don't know if everyone's aware of this, obviously they're going to record the new record, and it's with Bruce Fairburn. Okay. Who's another known producer who could deliver the goods. Paul, I know, was very tight with him. No, I think it was Gene that was more comfortable with him, and Paul not so much.
Okay.
But all of a sudden, because I know I worked on the song Psycho Circus, I worked on some demos with Paul, which was a lot of fun. Playing bass though. Okay. Because and he was still writing a bit with Kurt Cuomo, which was the guy that worked with me on some of the songs for Carnival of Souls. And the next thing I know, I'm asked to like help out in the studio and play those parts again from the demos. So Psycho Circus, the bass parts, that's me. Okay, Gene plays it exactly the same. And believe me, I know how to put the Gene hat on.
You were playing bass on some of the 80s albums also, right?
Yeah.
Right.
There's a few other things I did, but now I'm not a member of the band doing it. So I'm really the session guy, So I wound up on that. And then there was bass playing on like 3 or 4 songs. And then now I'm obviously in the studio with Fairburn. At some point, I remember getting together with Paul and working on this song. Okay, it wasn't called Dreaming yet, but I mentioned it to Fairburn. I thought it was a good track. Mm-hmm. I go like, did Paul ever play you this? Because I had a version of it. He goes like, no, I never heard that. I go, why don't you ask him about it? You know what I mean? You interested? Because he actually made a point somehow saying he was looking for more Paul songs. I'm like, light bulb, what I mean?
Really.
So, and I'm not so sure Paul even knew that, but why not? I mean, we spent time working on a song, roughly demoing something, and I'm not even sure if he ever played it for Fairburn. I don't know if that's true, but Fairburn wanted to.
Now, let me ask you, when you first wrote it and demoed it, was it during like the Carnival Souls era? Or was it after?
No, it was after.
So you were out of
after.
Okay.
And because I knew they were going to go record, and I knew I had a reasonable track record of working with Paul. And so I don't think it was something older,
Right.
No, because Carnival Souls was very specific, and it didn't have that vibe to it either.
Not at all.
Right. So, Fairburn liked it. Next thing I know, come on in. We want you to play bass on this one. We're going to do Dreaming. And I'm like, whoa, yeah, great. Okay. But that is the song, by the way, that got into a whole carfuffle. I'll use the word with Alice Cooper's publisher.
Yep.
And because it's reminiscent of 18. It wasn't going to hold any actual validity to make, but they were able to sue and they worked it out. You know what I mean? But it did put a little stain on that to me, only because then, what happens when you write a song and then that record is released? Everybody, because especially a record like that's going to go gold fairly quickly. So money can come pretty quickly. But if there's a legal thing going on with a song, they hold the money. Because they might have to give the money to someone else.
Sure,
so it took me probably 2 years to get the money for that song instead of getting it right away because of that issue, So, but anyway, I'm still excited about it. And then when we wanted to go deep, I'm like, you want me to play Exciter? Well, how about it's the Psycho Circus tour? Why not, why not Dreaming? I co-wrote it. So, and it went over, and we changed the arrangement just slightly, but it was a lot of fun to do. I thought it was a good song.
I thought it was a great one to do. Now, you spoke about, playing a little bit on the Psycho Circus album. Question that I had, as you were talking about, the question I've had for years that KISS fans always ask, was Eric Singer on any of the tracks on Hot in the Shade, the final release that came out? Do you know?
On Hot in the Shade, I think he did play something, but I thought it was also Kevin Valentine on Revenge. I get so fuzzy with some of the drumming things, Hot in the Shade.
I know you guys used a lot of demos for that album, and then you kind of, I'll say, touched
No,
them
you know
up
what? I'm confusing. I don't think Eric Singer did anything on Hot in Shade.
Okay.
It was either a drum machine or Eric Carr.
Okay, because that's always been the rumor that, Eric Singer did the tour with Paul in '89. Then you guys went in and did demos, and the rumor's always been that Singer played on some of Paul's demos that ended up on the album.
And if that's possible, it wasn't his drumming. I don't remember that. Okay. And I do know that even though Eric should have played on all of Revenge, except for Car Jam, of course.
Right.
He couldn't. He had a commitment with Alice Cooper, and Kevin Valentine came in and played on one song.
I think it might have been Take It Off. I think.
Yeah, Take It Off. Yep.
Right.
Yep.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Now,
although yesterday on the Eddie Trunk show, I did admit that it's not me playing lead guitar on Every Time I Look at You. It's Dick Wagner.
Right. Which, if you're a big KISS fan, I know that's been, to me, common knowledge for like 15, 20 years, but many KISS fans don't realize that.
I stumped the Trunk.
Did you really? Wow. He didn't know that.
No. Well, Revenge isn't one of his favorite records, so that's why that was funny. That
what's wrong with him?
No, he likes it, but he prefers some others. That's That's what I love about KISS. I mean, look, I'm this huge Frank Sinatra fan, and I have every album, every bootleg, everything. Although, challenge me, anyone out there, maybe I don't have it, send it to me.
Okay.
Show me what you got.
Yeah.
Well, it was a fun rabbit hole to go down, and it's I'm a collector too.
Yeah.
So, and just like the Beatles, which I'm a huge collector of too, you have the early Beatles, and then the psychedelic Beatles, and then you have the bootleg Beatles, and then you have the live, whatever. But Frank had a really long career, and I know what records I think are unmistakably, like his Sgt. Pepper or his Abbey Road or whatever you want to say, and there's other people. I remember I was up at ESP Guitars, and this girl, she does like accounting, and she had like, is there something that made me say something about Frank Sinatra? Because it was something that made me think, oh, you like Frank Sinatra? And she goes like, yeah. I go, well, what's your favorite album? I think Come Fly With Me, or, I don't know, just something a little more known. And she mentioned a record that I'm like, I didn't really know.
Oh, wow.
I think I heard the title, but I didn't know it. And it's a very sad, somber record. He sang songs from a poet and it was later. I don't mind some of his later stuff, the Reprise years, but it was just so weird. She said, that was like such an important record in my life. That's my favorite Frank Sinatra. And I was like, really? So it really opened my mind to the fact that so many people are affected in different ways by different music soundtracks. Now, obviously, I love the fact that I think my era and those albums of KISS are way more important than maybe the general music public knows, or certainly the Hall of Fame. If you know what I mean.
Oh, 100%. I know. I was there that night, so I know exactly what you mean.
Okay. So anyway, what can I say? But when Eddie says, well, we're, because that came up when I happened to mention that. Well, for me, and it wasn't just, I loved working on all the records with the band. They were all a different part of my journey with KISS, from Asylum to Crazy Nights to Hot in the Shade and Revenge. But for me, you asked me what's my favorite record. So then what comes into that is also my experience. Now, it was a sad time. Eric was sick. We had to use another drummer. We were going through a lot of changes. But for me, that working with Bob Ezrin, I was so fascinated with his work process, his knowledge, his ability, his control of the band. Because here's a band where you got Gene and Paul very competitive, dealing with what they see as a vision and how they want to do it. And now you got someone that they have to listen to him. And he passed the test when we did, God Gave Rock and Roll successfully for the movie. Okay. And then that became a revenge track, but that was his like test. Okay. Right. And I get it. I mean, I didn't know he was on drugs for, The Elder. And I didn't know, I know Destroyer was legendary record for the band. So, but it's just, so I put it together and say like great songs, great performances. And I learned so much, and it was a challenge. I remember Ezrin and the guys sitting me down and say like, Bruce, you need to play with balls. Like, big balls. Like, okay, let me see. Not sure what that means exactly, but I'll go to my closet and pick out some pedals and everything that say balls on it. Right? But I know that they meant really to play with a passion and fury. You know what I mean? And absolutely, all the Revenge leads are something I'm really proud of. Not to diminish Crazy Nights leads or Asylum leads or anything else, but I'm just saying.
It's a little bit of a different style to me. Like if I listen to something like King of the Mountain and then I listen to Take It Off, let's just say as an example, to me, and I'm not a guitar player, but to me, there's different style playing.
Absolutely. Yeah. And that's no different than an early Beatle record to, the White Album, to Frank's, earliest Columbia stuff where his voice is even like slightly different timbre, much brighter. And then when, in the 50s, all of a sudden his voice matures and it becomes this pillow to me, that I just love. And even as he got older, it still was very functional and emotional in his phrasing and everything. So I'm just saying that artists should evolve. There's always different, I love the fact that, KISS just has all of this catalog. It's incredible.
Yeah, no, I agree. One of the things I love with you and the band that you guys do is you play all those deep 80 cuts. And I'll be honest, there's a few of them from the 80s. I'll use Burn Bitch Burn as an example. That's not going to be in my top 50 or top 100 KISS songs list. But when you guys play it, I'm like, holy crap, that sounds like the best Kiss song ever. And I don't know how you guys do that, but there's a certain excitement and element that you guys bring to those performances that turn, I'll say, average songs into incredible sounding songs to me.
Good. Well, you got to remember, and I did want to make another mention that, like, because each cruise had its own, kind of recipe for the set list, and sometimes they were shorter bits of in a medley, so they weren't as many songs. I mean, there was a lot of songs, but they were shorter. You probably wouldn't have wanted to heard a full 4-minute version of Burn Bitch Burn, but you put in like a minute and a half of it, which is the meat and potatoes of it, and suddenly it's like, wow, that's a great track, and then all of a sudden we make a left turn. And again, I know I talked about Sinatra enough, but I have to go back to that. There's an influence there that will surprise people. So since, like I said, I love to listen. I listen to Sirius XM, which has the Sinatra channel. So I remember one time, and it was so funny because Lisa and I were driving here in Vegas, and we were on like where Frank Sinatra Drive goes into Dean Martin Avenue or whatever by the Sammy Davis thing. It's like, it's off of the Strip. It's kind of wild when you see like, whoa, it's Rat Pack land right here. And they were playing, Sirius XM was playing a live. They'll also use TV performances that are not easy to have, in your collection, but they have it. And they were playing this medley that they were doing. And it was like, bam, bam, song after song, no more than, sometimes they were like barely, it could be 30 seconds or a minute of a song. And that's on, like, there's a Christmas special that Dean and Frank did later on, 66 or 7. And they do a medley together. Dean's always kind of like running on it, standing there. So when I heard that, I was like, this is amazing. Oh my God. And look at how effortlessly they're going from one song to another, and the arrangement, there's a lot to learn there. And they just did like 10 songs in about 12 minutes. This is killer. And then it was time to put together the set for the cruise, where I realized we got to go deep, but let's do an Animalize thing, but we don't want one song. We want 5 of them or 4, but we only want to do like a bit of it. So that's how we did that, and then we've continued to do that. Although we have adapted to doing fuller versions of songs within medleys too. I've
noticed that. Yes.
Yeah.
Usually go like through the solo and then on to the next if you're doing that.
Yeah. Yeah. So it all depends. Obviously the Vamp gig, I think, would be more full songs than truncated versions of things, but it's all good. I mean, I think good music, it doesn't matter. Medleys are not easy, by the way, because because now suddenly instead of knowing one song, which is one kind of roadmap of something, and now you got one road. Now it's a whole buffet of material in one thing.
But those are some of the highlights of the shows. I love when you do those medleys, and it gives you a chance to kind of hear 4, 5, 6. I think for the Animalize, you did 6 of the 9 songs on the album in that medley, which to me was incredible, because when else am I ever going to hear those songs live ever again?
Yeah, no, exactly. So, and I got the right guys to do it, which is really a blessing. But I've known those guys quite a while, and we both actually played at Vamp years ago. There was a time when Zach was in this band, Sin City Sinners, that used to have special guests, and they were cover band. And there was a time when, of course, Todd's been in, and we would perform at Vamp. So it's kind of really interesting, come full circle there,
Yeah, I know Kiss fans are definitely hoping that this Vegas thing is not a one-time show, I'll say, on land, and that hopefully people on the West Coast, East Coast will get an opportunity to see this. Do you feel any pressure, being that this is the first time you're doing a show in a club, that, hey, it's got to achieve a certain level of sales, otherwise I'm not going to be able to do this?
I'm of course, but that's something without, getting wet. You don't know if you're going to swim, I guess. Right. So, don't remind me of something that makes me toss and turn at night.
Well, I'll say this, Bruce. I've seen Gene, Paul, Ace, Peter, Vinny, and most of the time those shows are not sold out.
Yeah, no, I understand that. I know we're already doing really well with the ticket sales, so I know we're going to have a good night. I'd love to say, oh yeah, it's like we had to turn away people. I'd love to say that, but actually, people are finding out how expensive it is to fly to Vegas around the holidays, and they're like, I can't pay $1,000 for back of the bus or the plane, to come out here, and I get that, but I know we'll have a good crowd, and yeah, that's something on my mind, but I have to be positive and optimistic in the same way that the cruise is a lot of pressure, that we'll have a successful evening, and then people are already making offers for 2022 to do things, but we all have to weigh out our schedules and pick and choose what could work. All right. So I'm not trying to act like I would never do this and we wouldn't have an opportunity to do it elsewhere,
Sure.
but I have to see how we can do it.
Sure. You know, and I was talking to Todd about this, right, when you joined. I know back in May, you had mentioned that the guys and you were writing songs and thinking about an album. It sounds like it'll be maybe 2022 or later, but what's your thoughts on that?
Oh, well, and it's kind of funny because last night, one of the songs we're going to perform at Vamp, we did lay down the basic tracks for, okay? So since I had it kind of mixed nicely, I shared it with them, okay? You know, just so to refresh them, okay? Because
Sure.
that's us playing it, not somebody else playing it. And I looked at the dates and I saw how we went in like late spring, and then by summer I was cleaning up tracks and overdubbing some better guitars as guides or maybe permanent to get the vocals ready. And then that's when everyone's schedules just exploded.
Yeah.
So how and when and what 22 is like, I know I couldn't think about anything until they're back with Slash. I think once everyone settles into their schedules and what they do, we may be able to make plans. I mean, I think 2021 was unusual because of COVID opening up and then the starting and stopping and it was a miracle we did the cruise. Let's face it. How many people
book my flight until 10 days beforehand because I was convinced it was going to be canceled.
Right. There you go. So that's what I'm saying. So I think maybe everyone won't have so many surprise. This just came up or whatever. And we would be able to actually. I'm not sure I understand. Oh, my thing is talking to me. Stop.
Technology.
My so I think, I'd like to say we could put something out. Sure.
Right. Now, will this be new songs that you guys are writing for this, or will it be something like, let's say, like a Sword and Stone that you wrote, but was never recorded?
I would like it to be mostly new. There could be something like that as well, but I think I want to. We've worked on new material through the last couple of years, not consistently because of the scheduling, but there's a lot of talent here. We just got to buckle down. And we'll get it done.
Sounds great. Now, you mentioned before the Beatles, and everybody knows, I'm assuming you've seen the Get Back documentary.
No, I've only seen bits.
Really?
I haven't had time.
Oh, wow. Okay.
I mean, even if I had Disney Plus and I'll get it to watch it.
Sure.
I wouldn't have had time to see it. I swear. I've been slammed.
Well, that's not a bad thing when you're busy, right? But I guess my question is, I believe for KISS, there's Carnival of Souls footage like that. Was there any other footage from any of the time you were in the band of you guys recording and writing an album?
I don't think so. I was really grateful that they turned into those Easter eggs on Kissology, you know, but I don't really think so. And then even Eddie Trunk and I were talking yesterday about that Hot in the Shade we had. I think it was Jack Sawyer's that was following us around for a while. Right. And there's a lot of great footage of that. But it's always a good idea to have someone documenting what you're doing, you know. When Eric Singer and my guys when we all recorded for the David Z Foundation Heaven, you know, at the studio,
great cover.
Not enough of us was filming, but we turned it into something for a video. That was a lot of that footage was Lisa, and then a couple of the other wives and girlfriends did a little bit of footage, and Brent did a little bit, but Eric never did. Todd should have. Zach should have. You know, I wish we had even more. But the point is, it's always good to document that stuff, and I think. That movie that of course it shed a different light on what everyone thought was a terrible period for the Beatles.
Exactly.
Is people want to see the creative process. I love it. So I'd like to always think that I would make sure that I'd say, Lisa, just run the camera, just film anything you think it looks good. Let's do it.
Yeah. Now, what about KISS just put out that 45th anniversary for Destroyer?
Yeah.
If there was going to be a box set for one of the 80s albums, which one would you choose?
Oh, I mean, I'd be grateful for any of them. In a way, Asylum could be so colorful and everything. But then again, there's a lot of other stuff for Revenge, and Tommy knows this. You know, even though I'm not sure he would be involved with that. But I remember giving them whatever. Ezrin gave me a lot of digital things. That's how I had the isolated Eric Carr, for everyone, to everyone.
Right. Yep.
Those vocal things, because Ezrin knew I wouldn't lose them. You know what I mean? And that's how I had the unholies and stuff like that.
Yeah.
And by the way, no one really talked about my crazy mix-up of Frank and KISS stuff, which was the intro song on Luck Be a Lady on the Cruise.
Yeah. Okay, I missed that.
No one's ever missed it. Were you Were you there before we started?
Yeah, definitely I was. Yeah.
Okay, so music was playing and it was
Right.
Frank Sinatra singing, and then little like Kiss things would come into it.
I wonder if I was like blabbering with somebody. Oh, do you think they'll open up with this song? What do you think they'll do this song?
Yeah,
And
because
then
at the
they
very end, luck be a lady, you know, and then unholy tonight, you know, and then it goes right into a big low note, and then we went into Exciter. I have not
Gotcha.
seen one person write it, say anything about it. I'm like, all right, I know it isn't like, you know, starting out with 2001 Space Oddity. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
But I put together that thing and nobody caught it. All right,
Oh,
whatever.
sorry about that. You
Yeah,
know,
I'll be playing it at Vamped anyway.
all right, well, that's cool. This time
Yeah.
we'll keep an eye out and ear out for it. Obviously, Kiss has also at times brought back some of their old outfits, the Destroyer outfits, the Alive outfits. Any chance we get you in that Asylum outfit again, Bruce?
Yeah, no, I don't have the Asylum stuff. I
Oh,
have
you
the
don't have it.
radioactive suit. I
Do
can
you
fit
really?
in the jacket, but
Okay.
you know, I mean, who knows? You know what I mean? I mean, to me, it should be about the music and not wearing a piece of clothing from the '80s. But I like that people are. Look, that's the amazing thing about Kiss. And I remember when if there was a museum thing at the Grammy museum in LA and they'd show Beatle clothing, and you know, people were fascinated with that stuff, of course. So you never know. But I'm not promising a debut of that at Vamp right now. I got enough to think about. You know?
Absolutely. You know, it's one of the things for me. I remember in the 80s, I was full in on that. I like that whole look. I love the logo on the stage for the Asylum tour. I mean, that just was incredible.
Oh yeah, we had some great stages too. Yeah, although it's very different from the $1 million, you know, production they can put on now. You know, which is incredible. But I think we always competitively did a very exciting stage shows. I'm very proud of all that stuff. You know, I got to jump real soon. So
Absolutely.
What else you got?
Yeah,
Let
no.
me give
So
you one more.
Yeah, no. So let's just close by talking about the show. Where do people get the tickets for the show?
Okay, so I mean, there's a link on my website. You know, it's easy to find under shows, events, and it's or you go to Vamp. You know, you Google Vamp, and their site comes up, and there's a way to get the tickets. The VIPs are sold out already. That was only available on my website, of course, but it's really a very fair price when you take a look at it. It's more about you coming to Las Vegas if you don't live here. You know what I mean? Now, Vegas is very common for walk-ups anyway. You know, we know that. So even if we're not sold out in advance, we know more people might be able to get in there. But I think it's going to be I wouldn't wait if you're thinking about it, though. I do think I got the ticket number from the girl who runs the place, which, you know, this is that Danny Coker's club, you know, the Counting Cars, you know, he has that History Channel show, counts custom cars, and these are great people, and his wife Corey runs Vamp. It's a family thing, and I love those guys, and they've been great. We rehearsed at his facilities too, so it's like a little Vegas entertainment community. But everyone really raves about you know, Vamp's not on the Strip, so you just got to get that Uber ride there or whatever, and you're fine.
Which is easy enough.
It's really it's a rock club. It's great.
Right. And you'll be out on the road in 2022 with Grand Funk as well, I'm sure, right?
Yeah, I mean, the dates are coming in, and of course, I want it all. I want to be able to do it all. So let's see what happens. You know.
Excellent. Well, Bruce, I wish I could be there on the 30th. I hope next year the show's East
You'll
and
see
West
it on
Coast.
the 31st, I'm sure. You know?
If not on the 30th, 5 minutes later on Facebook. It'll be on Facebook Live. It'll be on YouTube. I'll definitely be keeping an eye out for it.
Exactly.
Much success with it. I'm sure it's going to be great. If it's anything like the cruise shows, it'll be phenomenal. Yeah. And happy holidays to you and Lisa, and we'll see you in 2022.
Well. Okay. Thanks a lot.
Later.
All right, bye-bye.
Alrighty, there you have it. I'd like to thank both Bruce and Todd for spending a lot of time with me talking all about the upcoming Bruce Kulick show in Las Vegas on December 30th. There's no doubt that show is going to be a lot of fun. I highly recommend if you're in the area, you go check it out. I've seen every one of their shows on the cruise, and it's always amazing. If you're watching this on YouTube, hit that subscribe button below. If you're listening to one of my podcasts, subscribe over there as well. Also, head on over to Facebook and follow my page, The Rock Experience with Mike Brunn, where each and every day we talk about all the rock and roll music that you love. You could also follow me on Instagram and Twitter as well. That's it for this episode. Thanks for watching. Thanks for listening. See you all next time.